Yo, what is up, Genshin YouTube? This is Bench Gamer here. So in this video, I just wanted to cover some of the leaks that have been coming out for Sumeru in the last 2-3 days. Yeah, so if you don't want to see leaks, if you don't want to hear leaks, if you don't want to engage with leaks in any way whatsoever, then I suggest you leave right now. But for the rest of you, you can just stay and hear me rant about, whatever it is that I rant about. For this video, I kind of wanted to be like a small update on my previous one on skin color and Genshin Impact and Sumeru. Not so much Genshin Impact, but just Sumeru this time. So, of the characters that are being revealed in the leaks, there are 7 of them. That's these guys. Now, obviously, of these 7 characters, only one character is somewhat more tanned than the rest of these other guys, and this is basically what's causing all the outrage, which I thought was a bit more than I expected because I've been following the leaks for weeks now, right? I've been following the leaks since I got bored of whatever patch it was that ran out of content for me. That was like in 1.1.8. I don't know how long ago it was. But since then, I've been following the leaks. So I knew that these characters would all be, white-skinned or pale, whichever you want to call it. Since at least like the 27th or the 28th. And even before then, I just assumed that they would be the same color as the rest of the Genshin Impact characters, except for Kaya and Xingyin. Because that's just the default of the anime and manga genre in general, right? It's not just Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is very much a copycat and a follower of Genshin. No, not Genshin, but anime traditions. And according to anime traditions, the vast majority of the characters are just going to be this type of skin tone and this type of skin tone. And that's just how it is. But some things have also been revealed that I think are kind of interesting. Now, one of the responses to the reveal that most of the characters that we are seeing right now are, white-skinned is this theory by Naver RD, who says, reposting this from another Reddit post, looks like most people who live in the rainforest area will have pale skin. Tignari, Kalei, Dori, while the dark-skinned characters will live in the desert area. Sino, the Cleopatra girl, Pyro Lady. That was my theory so far, and it seems I am on the right track. And when I first read this, I thought it was the most copium shit ever. Like imagine them separating tanned and like brown skin characters from white skin characters by their geographical location, because that's never really happened in Genshin Impact before, has it? It's not like Liyue characters look all that different in terms of skin tone compared to in terms of like their skin tones compared to Mondstadt characters or Inazuma characters. They're all very much kind of pale, white-skinned, maybe with a tinge of peach or like pink. And then there's this guy who is somewhat more tanned than the usual Genshin character, but not that much more so, right? You practically can't even tell. It's only when you compare him with another character that you really understand that, yeah, this guy is slightly more tanned. But it's much more apparent on Dahlia, right? She looks closer to Xingyin or Kaya than she is to Bennett, which is actually more than expected, because when the leaks first came out about Dahlia, they just said she was tan leaning. Now, tan leaning could mean anything, because tan could mean Bennett tanned, or it could mean Kaya tanned, if you believe that Kaya is just tanned. So that had me believing that she would actually be paler or lighter skinned than she actually is in this leak. And I'm glad that she's not. She actually looks kind of accurate to me in terms of depicting light-skinned Iranian people or Middle Eastern people. So that's pretty cool. And one of the other characters that has also been revealed to be dark-skinned is Cleo. That's not actually her real name, but we don't actually know what her real name is. So that's just what we're going to call her for now, Cleo. She's apparently going to be based on Cleopatra, and she is dark-skinned. She is currently the only legitimately confirmed dark-skinned character in all of Sumeru. And she is a Hydro-Vision user who uses a polearm. She is also going to be, I believe, the first polearm user for Hydro. So that's also pretty cool. I will be probably saving for her, but that actually sounds like Copium, because I have absolutely zero self-control. I will probably pull for the first character that has a cool, intro or something. So yeah, that's another non-light-skinned character. And there is also the third non-light-skinned character, who is Sino, who we've all seen. He's not really dark-skinned, I would say. And I've seen a lot of talk about him memeing about him being the only dark-skinned character in all of Sumeru, but I don't think that is the case. He is just a bit tanned, similar to Bennett, right? I would actually say he is closer to Bennett than he is to Dahlia. But I don't know, maybe that will not be the case in Sumeru. Anyways, of these three characters who are all not light-skinned characters, what do you think they have in common with them? Well, Sino is based off of like a jackal and has very clear Egyptian-themed styles. He actually looks like a character from Yu-Gi-Oh to me. And Dahlia as well. Look at her. Her coloring is mostly yellow and black. Look at her belt. It looks very Egyptian to me, or maybe even Mesopotamian. And look at this. Look at this armband. Look at this upside down pyramid looking jewel thingy, red jewel thingy on her stomach. Look at her arm guard. Look at her hair. It's all yellow and kind of bronze, similar to Sino. And we also know that Cleopatra, or Cleo, is also sort of Egyptian themed. So it seems to me like this theory that the two different, variations of skin tones in Sumeru will actually be based on their geographical location, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because it's not like people who live in the jungle are particularly light-skinned. But from Genshin's perspective, this likely is going to be the case, which is both good and bad, because we now know that it is most likely that all these characters in the rainforest area of Sumeru are going to be light-skinned, whereas I believe most of the characters who come from the desert area, like Dahlia, probably Dahlia, like Sino, and like Cleo, are probably going to be tan or brown, which is ultimately, I think, a good thing because it leaves more possibility that the future characters that have not been revealed yet will be tanned or, have darker skin tones. That is the good thing. On the other hand, some of the characters that have been released in these leaks, I am not such a fan of, especially Nahida. Actually, it's mostly just Nahida, let's be honest. It's mostly Dendro Archon. I like Dori, I like Nilo, I'm ambivalent about Kalei. She looks kind of different from her manga form. Tignari also is pretty cool. They all look pretty good to me in a vacuum. If you didn't tell me that they were Sumeru characters, I would just think, wow, these look like really cool characters. Except for Nahida, she looks whatever. So let's just start from the worst character, Nahida. I've been taking a lot of copium pills. In my opinion, this can't possibly be her final form. In a world where like there is good design decisions, this could never be her final form. I bet you have to like water her or something, or like put hydro application on her, and then she grows up into another form in a taller female form, and then you have to water her again with some more hydro application, and she turns into an adult female. And that is my copium take on her. Otherwise, she is just the most bland, lolly child model character ever. She looks like some reject model that was made from a combination of Klee and Paimon. And I actually do like Klee. And I also kind of like Paimon, at least in the Chinese voiceovers. But Nahida, I don't know what she's supposed to represent. She doesn't look like an Indian-based character, of course, because one, she's pale as fuck. But that's not, I don't think like that's even the most like obvious thing. Because if she was wearing a dress that was obviously Indian, then you could at least, or Middle Eastern, you could at least say, wow, this is just whitewashing. But it's not even whitewashing in my opinion, because the dress itself doesn't look inspired by anything at this point. It just looks like a generic fantasy-esque pixie fairy dress that could be in any like Lord of the Rings knockoff. It just looks bad. It just looks generic. If you look at her cape, it almost even blends into the background. You can't even see her outline that properly because it's just so similar to the grass on the ground that it sort of just blends into it. So that's kind of concerning. And everything about her, it just looks so generic. The hair, like what is it with anime and like pinkish blonde, platinum blonde hair? It's just bad. I do like some tidbits of the design, like this upside down heart. I think that's pretty cool. Maybe that has some lore implications. I also like these like green jewel drop things on her dress on the bottom. And this texture actually looks pretty detailed. Hopefully there is some like lore explanation for what's going on with her depiction. And it's not all just, bland pixie-esque fairy shit. I'm sure it makes sense in the lore, in the story, in the lore. I'm sure it all makes sense somewhere, somehow, but not here because it's like 4 months away from release. Anyways, as for my favorite character out of all of these, I think it would be Dory because she rides on a Jin and her Jin attacks with a claymore. She looks, of all these characters, I think Dory, Nilo, and Tignar look the most obviously Sumeru-esque characters. At first, I thought, why do none of these characters look Middle Eastern or Indian? And this is one of the most common complaints that people have leveled against these characters. And I agreed them at first, and I still agreed them with Calais. But the more I looked at them in a collage like this, where they all stand together, I do think there is a paradigm and a design philosophy behind these characters. Like for Al Haytham, look at this symbol, look at this pattern, and look at these symbols. These look vaguely Middle Eastern or Mesoamerican, Mesopotamian to me. And they all have these jewel things on their bodies. Look at Nilo. She has this blue jewel on her chest, another blue jewel on her stomach. Dory has this giant large diamond thing on her head. She also has another, jewel diamond thing on her chest. Nahida as well has these large green jewel drops things, and as well as this thing on her chest. Al Haytham has this symbol on his chest, which I think kind of looks like the Zoroastrian symbol, if you've ever seen that. It's like a guy pointing in one direction, pointing to the right, and he has these wings spreading out from him. So this looks like that. Obviously, the person standing is not there, but we have this yellow-green jewel in the center, which kind of makes me believe that Al Haytham might be like some kind of homunculus or man-made machine, similar to Albedo. He might be artificial. And of course, the head is here, so it kind of makes sense that this character is probably based on Zoroastrian religion to me. So that's my skeptical, my theory crafting, or not really theory crafting, it's just my basic take on where the inspiration for these characters come from. And Dahlia, obviously, she is some kind of Egyptian or Mesopotamian or something like that, mostly because of her color scheme and because she has an upside down pyramid on her chest with a red gem in the middle. Calais also has this purple red gem thingy, as well as these feathers. I don't know what that's about. I know that this thing hanging from her vision is from the manga, so that's really cool that they kept that. Otherwise, I think Calais is a very mid design. Tignar, you can't really see him that well here, but I really like this dendro symbol on his chest. I like the flower on his shoulder, and honestly, these two feather-like hang things from his forehead look stupid to me. But overall, I really like his design. As for Cleo, this is just a fan artwork. You can see here a darker version of herself. This was the original fan art version, but the person who leaked information about Cleo, Xavier Primos, says, "She's so pretty, your artwork is so beautiful. 8.5 out of 10 for accuracy." And then they went on to say that she probably isn't this dark. She is probably a bit lighter in terms of skin tone and closer to Xingyan. So this is what we get. Yeah. And she also has a halo behind her head. Not a halo, but a moon something, a moon symbol. So even though like there's all this outrage about skin color, I do think there is a bit of possibility for more diversity and more variety in terms of skin tones. And I'm not willing to throw everything out into the trash yet. I am still excited for Sumeru. The splash art is really cool in my opinion. Tignari more so than Calais and Dory. I was very excited for Calais when I first heard about her and learned about her in the manga. This was like back in 2.1 when I first read the manga, and it was pretty good. I didn't think it was like amazing, but I really liked Calais. I liked how she looked. I liked how she had all these bandages all over her and this turban-like thing on her head. And this design for Calais just does not do it for me. I don't really like this, whatever this is. This looks like a cat robot, some kind of Pokemon-esque nonsense. I fell out with Pokemon so long ago. It just looks bad to me. I'm sorry, you can cancel me now. But that's how I feel about Calais. Dory, on the other hand, one, she's purple, so she's like an automatic 8 out of 10 for me. 2, she has pink hair, so that's like a 9 out of 10. And she sits on a genie and uses it to attack with a claymore, so that's like a 10 out of 10. I would probably be pulling for Dori most of all. And Tignari. Right. I've heard some criticisms that Tignari is a Dendro character, right? And people don't like his design because it's too out there, it's too colorful, it's too all over the place. But I disagree. I think, especially his belt, looks very culturally inspired to me. It looks almost like something I saw in a history book with Tibetans in it. It looks like one of those Tibetan monks and what they wear. And of course, there are all these textures on his coat over here. So I think out of all of the characters so far, Tignari is probably the most culturally inspired one, and the one I would most associate with Sumeru as of right now. I could be wrong, he could be completely like a different character, but he does look very culturally inspired. So overall, I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's not wrong that these characters should probably be, darker skinned, because it still doesn't make sense that these characters being in this jungle or forest would somehow just justify them being light skinned. But I am saying that in terms of Genshin's logic, it does look like this is what they're going with. This divide between this desert region in Sumeru and the rainforest region. Alhaitham is probably going to be some like caretaker for Nahida. I don't know about Nahida, I still hate her. So yeah, that is my main take on the skin color issue for the Sumeru region. Honestly, I was a bit apprehensive of the backlash because I almost felt like they kind of exceeded my expectations, because my expectation was so low. I did not expect Dahlia to be this dark skinned, even as bad as that sounds. I just expected her to be more along the same lines of Bennett, who is tanned in the Mondstadt sense of the word. And now that I'm pretty certain that they are dividing these characters in terms of skin color and their design between Sumeru and the Egyptian desert area, it almost feels like we're getting two nations worth of characters, but split into one nation. This could be bad for you, especially if if you wanted just Egyptian type characters or Indian type characters. But I think what we're going to be getting is a split between Zoroastrian and Hindu based character. Like basically Zoroastrian, Hindu, and Buddhist characters are going to be one faction, and then the desert characters who are going to probably be based on Egyptian and Mesopotamian type inspirations. That's what I'm feeling right now. And those desert the desert based people are going to be the ones who are tanned and dark skinned, as stereotypical and orientalist as that sounds, which it is, to be honest. And here we have another leak that says, reminder of what we know so far timeline wise, we are unsure of Dahia's rarity. Oh, that's another thing. If Dahia is a 4-star character, holy shit, Twitter is going to go nuts. And honestly, it just sucks because there are no dark-skinned 5-star characters until at least Cleo. And Cleo isn't even revealed so far. Another thing that's kind of weird is that we have no leaks for Sino. Sino is nowhere to be seen. So either Sino is just not in the database for some odd fucking reason, or he's not coming for a very, very long time. As for Cleo, I'm also sure Cleo is not coming out until like at least 2.4 or 2.5 because she's nowhere to be seen. And as for the 3.0, unfortunately, we will just be getting, Ignari, Calais, Dori. If you don't mind like the skin color issue or the skin color controversy, whatever you want to call it, then I think you will actually enjoy 3.0. I don't think that the design of the characters themselves are indicative of the quality of Sumeru as a piece of content. No matter how much I dislike that they are taking this path towards representation of these characters, I do separate it in general from how I think of Sumeru as, a story and like an environment, so to speak. Except for Nahida, just throw in the trash. And we are unsure of Dahia's rarity. We already saw that. We are not expecting Hatham or Cleo before 3.3 at the earliest. So yeah. Remember, Cleo is not her actual name. So before 3.3, that's a long time away. That's at least 8 months from now. Sorry, guys. We are not going to get Cleo until at least 2023. Subject to change, we are already hearing rumors of Kusanali and Scaramouche being pushed one patch later. So apparently they were going to be released in 3.1 or 3. But now it seems that they are probably going to be released in 3.2 or 3.3. And I think this is also really interesting because it suggests that we will be getting a different template for storytelling in Sumeru. What I suspect, or what I hope will happen, is that we will be getting longer arcs over more patches with bigger acts, but only one act per patch. So ideally, we would get one really large act in 3.0, and then maybe a smaller middle act in 3.2, 3.1, and then the final act in 3.2. That way, it doesn't seem as rushed as it was in Inazuma. That is my very, very Copium take. Yeah, and the trailer for 2.8 has also released. I'm not going to show that here, but you can see that for yourself. Overall, I like what I see. Despite making my video on like skin color in Genshin Impact and Sumeru, I do still have hope that there will be greater representation and diversity in terms of skin colors in the future. And just in general, I like the designs of the characters. No matter how much you might criticize, the skin color and the cultural appropriation, Orientalism, and all that stuff, I do like the designs. With the exception of Nahida. Fucker.